Hello and welcome. I am Exit Light and this is my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you about a fugitive who also happens to be one of the most prolific serial killers in history. Now, I'm going to have to use some rhyming words. We're going to pull out our Blue's Clues or Sesame Street, and guys are going to have to put your thinking caps on because some of the words will be caught in the YouTube net. So let's see if we can't get around that. What do you think? All right. Before we get started, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps. And the ratio between people who watch and like the math isn't mathin'. So if you guys could please do that, I would really appreciate it. Also, if you're not subscribed, please do so. And if you do, click that bell so you'll be notified when my content goes up. And if you feel so inclined, below there is a button that says thanks. Thanks. It's a tip jar. And as always, it's not necessary, but it would be greatly appreciated. All right, guys, let's talk about this, shall we? Pedro Alonso Lopez was born on October 8, 1948. He's also known as the Monster of the Andes. He is Colombian. He is a serial killer. He is a child rapist. And he is a fugitive from the law. He murdered a minimum of 110 people, mostly young women and girls, from 1969 to 1980. Lopez claimed to have murdered over 300 people. He is considered by many as one of the most prolific serial killers and rapists in history. Pedro Lopez was born in Colombia in 1948 in the municipality of Venadillo, Tolima. Pedro Lopez was the seventh of 13 children born to Benilda Lopez de Castañeda, a prostitute, and had a difficult childhood due to the violence of the household and the absence of a father figure. His father, Megdardo Reyes, was murdered in La Violencia 6 months before his birth. La Violencia was a 10-year civil war in Colombia. It went from 1948 to 1958 between the Colombian Conservative Party and the Colombian Liberal Party, and it was fought mainly in the countryside. Lopez was banished from the house at the age of 8 years old when his mother caught him attempting to arrest his sister. He was homeless at 8. Lopez wandered the streets of Bogota and was frequently assaulted. After the incident, he joined a gang of street children for protection. At the age of 12, he was adopted by an American immigrant family but fled after he was sexually assaulted by a teacher. In 1969, Lopez was sentenced to 7 years in prison for auto theft. During this period of incarceration, he was brutally gang raped by 4 other inmates. Days later, Lopez hunted down the inmates and killed them in retaliation. The killings were ruled as self-defense, and 2 years were added to his sentence. Upon his release from prison in 1978, Lopez began wandering throughout the northwestern area of South America, eventually arriving in Peru. He later claimed that during this period he had killed over 100 girls, mainly street children, and from indigenous tribes. While these claims are unverifiable, it is known that Lopez was briefly captured by an indigenous tribe in south central Peru after trying to abduct a 9-year-old girl. The tribe stripped Lopez of his clothes, his belongings, and buried him in the sand. However, an American missionary convinced the tribe to release Lopez and turn him over to the police. The police did not detain Lopez, and he was instead expelled from the country. After he was deported from Peru, Lopez resumed traveling throughout South America, and although authorities began to notice an increase of missing persons, more specifically young girls, throughout the areas where he traveled, they concluded that the disappearances were most likely cases of human trafficking. So, I guess, right? Let's not ask him. In April of 1980, the area surrounding Ambato, Ecuador, were hit by a flash flood, unearthing the remains of several young girls who had been previously reported missing. This revelation finally prompted the police to reopen their investigations and contributed towards Lopez's ultimate arrest that came that same year. Not long after the flooding, a local woman named Carvina Poveda was on her way to the market with her 12-year-old daughter, Marie, when Lopez attempted to abduct the girl. Local merchants were able to overpower Lopez and hold him until the police arrived. While in police custody after his arrest, Lopez initially refused to cooperate during his interrogation. He chose to remain silent. Eventually, he began to confess to his crimes to police captain Pastor Cordova, who had been placed in the same cell as him while posing as a prisoner. He described his modus operandi as first luring the victim away from public places with a trinket before graping and strangling them with their bare hands. He additionally claimed that he would occasionally exhume the victims' bodies from their burial site and have, and I quote, tea parties with them. When asked about his motive for the murders, Lopez reportedly said, "I lost my innocence at age of 8, so I decided to do the same to as many girls as I could." Soon after his confession, he directed the authorities to the bodies of 53 victims, and his confession soon led to the confirmation of a total of 110 victims in Ecuador. Later, in 1980, Lopez was convicted of murder and sentenced to, I hope you're sitting down, 16 years in prison. That's the maximum prison sentence available in Ecuador at the time. 200 murders, 16 years. The logic, I don't understand. Lopez served his prison sentence at the Garcia Moreno prison near Quito and was released from prison 2 years early for being a good boy on August 31st in 1994. In an interview shortly before his release, Lopez described himself as the man of the century and said he was being released for good behavior. After his release, Lopez was deported to Colombia and was detained as an illegal immigrant upon arrival before being handed over to the Colombian authorities. Somehow, prosecutors were unable to make a case against him, and he was instead declared insane and committed to a mental hospital. In 1998, Lopez was declared sane, and he was released on $70 bail, on the condition that he would periodically report to the authorities. He almost immediately fled. The last reported sighting of Lopez was in September of 1999 when he visited the National Civil Registry to renew his citizenship card. In 2002, Colombian National Police and Interpol issued warrants for Lopez's arrest over a murder bearing similarities to his modus operandi. For whatever reason, the Interpol warrant was deactivated in 2005, even though Lopez remained a fugitive. Lopez has also been named as a possible suspect in a homicide committed in Tunia, Colombia in 2012, and in 2006, the Guinness World Records gave credit to Lopez as being the most prolific serial killer. The listing was removed on newer editions after complaints that it made competition out of murder. Thank you for playing my rhyming game and for coming to my channel. And good night.